Where did the road go? Off-road edition. Welcome to this short edition of Where Did the Road Go? And someone recommended I call these Off the Road. And I think I kind of like that. Off the Road episodes. These short little blurbs.
Sounds good to me.
Huh?
Sounds good to me.
And I'm here with Super Infra Man and AP Strange. And we were just talking about this before we were about to record, so I figured this might be a good thing to talk about real briefly in one of these. And this is AI-created art.
Yeah, and I had ran this by AP on Twitter. There's an account called Super Composite, and I think AP can explain a little bit of this better than I can, but it's the same face that keeps coming up. And of course, a lot of the art has a very uncanny to horror macabre aspect to it, too.
Yeah, if you see the picture of the woman, it's a woman's face that just keeps reappearing, I guess, in different AI prompts that are being put into the machine. So he says, I discovered this woman who I call Loab. I'm going to pronounce it Loab because I don't know how it's pronounced, but Loab in April. And he says her presence is persistent and she haunts every image she touches. Content warning, take a seat. This is a true horror story and veers sharply macabre. So Super Composite has this whole thread. And honestly, I don't know that I really understand the technical aspects of it. I have some friends that are very much into AI and particularly AI image generation now that seem excited about it or creeped out by it, because it is kind of creepy. It's this woman's face that was generated in April and just keeps...
It's supposed to be a random generation, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And you know, that on the second tweet, the person talks about using negative prompts, which is something that, you know, it's... I'm not smart enough to understand it, of course. But, you know, kind of putting in the opposite of the image you're trying to get, or you put in something and you want something that's the reverse of it. And some of the examples that they use to get the image of the woman are really bizarre, because it's like a logo that says, you know, like from a business or something like that. But this whole opposite end of it and all of these things, the lady, she's got dark brown hair. Her cheeks are like almost like windburned raw, and her eyes are set back, or in some of them they're even like missing completely. And she's just there staring. It is very, very creepy.
That is creepy.
Yeah, he describes it as being like triangles of rosacea on her cheeks. But her face just kind of like looks almost skeletal and puffed out at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it seems like he wanted to find, he directed the AI to give him the opposite of Marlon Brando, and it came up with this is one of the things he says in the thread. But then he has a friend that said, my friend made this image of a hyper compressed glass tunnel surrounded by angels, ... in the style of Wes Anderson. And this was combined with the image of Loab and an image prompt. And I guess like this kind of went, this image took on a life of its own, started appearing in other AI images.
Or just like unconnected AIs?
It doesn't say, I don't think.
Right. I don't know. I find this all very perplexing, but says through some kind of emergent statistical accident, something about this woman is adjacent to extremely gory and macabre imagery in the distribution of AI's world knowledge. So I guess the AI, like in a sense, is still learning how to generate imagery from the prompts that's given, and it's kind of building off of that knowledge. So perhaps this woman's face has now kind of become part of how AI is defining imagery. So she's just popping up everywhere, but she's popping up close to anything that's gory or macabre. So these pictures get worse and worse as you go down the thread.
Yeah.
A lot of them are hidden. They're like behind sensitive content warnings.
Yeah.
So you have to actually have it show you, but they're horrifying.
So we Saxon also mentioned like your idea of a digital egregore.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like it might be some kind of emergent entity that's trying to make itself known as like at least a ghost in the machine at this point.
Right.
You could be led to believe that very easily just by looking at these pictures.
It's bizarre how consistent the imagery of her is within all of this, because the variation is in her face is not that much in some of them anyway, for most of them, but the damage and everything else around her and on her face is where the variation is. I don't know. You remember the meme that went around before we shared memes on the internet, which was have you seen this man? And it's like a picture of a generic face in your dreams.
No.
Yeah, this man.
Yes,
you remember that? Man.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that in a way.
It was like thisman.com or thisman.org or something like that. Huh. There was a website for it, and it's a hand-drawn image of a man's face that's just kind of off.
Like kind of Uncanny Valley-esque. Yeah.
Right. Something about it isn't right. Like the proportions are just wrong. And it says like millions of people around the world have dreamed about this man, but nobody knows who he is. And like computers have tried to match his face to known faces that have been scanned, and there isn't a person in the world that looks like this. I mean, it's kind of well-known bunkum nowadays. It was just kind of like an internet myth.
Right.
Kind of one of the original creepypastas.
Yeah.
But it was something that always went around, you know. But yeah, I see what you mean. It has that kind of like recognizability to it.
Yeah.
So
it's very weird, and like I say, I don't know. You know, with the AI stuff, you know, and as much as we talked about how algorithms assemble ideas and things like that, I don't know. I'm losing my point in my head as I'm talking about it because it's so hard for me to understand. But
well, yeah, you can get carried away. It's what this is saying here is that let's see if I can make sense of this. Since Loab was discovered using negative weight prompts or negative prompt weights, her gestalt is made from a collection of traits that are equally far away from something, but her combined traits are still a cohesive concept for AI. And almost all descendant images contain a recognizable Loab. So it's like what you were saying, where she has like, he lists the features like the sunken eyes, the rosacea cheeks, the kind of weird mouth, the dark hair. And then as he goes down, he tries to generate images of her with some of these features removed. And no matter what you do, you still recognize her, you know, like it still does look like her. Like one of these is he makes her look like an old statue, generates her as an old statue here. And it's still very much the Loab, you know.
Yeah.
So it just kind of exists, whether
is the AI creating a tulpa?
Maybe, or it's telling us go ahead, AP.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, or it's pointing to one that already exists in a certain way, because what really fascinates me about this is, you know, the AI is drawing from, you know, something that's man-made. You know, lots of things are man-made, obviously, innumerable. But, you know, the fact that these characteristics are all recurring, to me, it seems like, okay, this is something that at the very least is in the subconscious of our mind, or, you know, in the popular zeitgeist or whatever. And if all of us are contributing to this image, and this is what comes up, like, you know, that sounds like the ingredients for a tulpa.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that there may be something on the other end of that, though.
Okay.
I tend to think of when you're talking about inspiration and things being man-made, you have to wonder how many things actually are man-made.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
When you're talking about like art and creativity and music, I mean, especially music, the term music contains the word muse. The whole idea being that something within the imaginal realm that exists outside of our phenomenal reality is trying to emerge within this realm and needs to basically use human beings as a medium to manifest, right?
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
So like then technology may just be cutting out the middleman at this point.
I love that. You know, yeah, I think you were on the show with us when Chris was there too, and we were talking about like doing music and things like that, and just all these different places we pull inspiration from, and whatever we've tapped into. Man, that is wild.
But you have to wonder where you do. It's kind of like the old story, Paul McCartney's, when he wrote Yesterday, I guess, just woke up with the song fully formed in his head.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So did he write it in his sleep or was it put there?
Right.
Psyche Corporation did that too. She dreamed one of her songs.
Yeah, there's innumerable examples of that where sometimes something is just, I was thinking about that earlier today because it happened to me once where I just took a nap in the afternoon and woke up with just like a poem in my head. And I had to wonder if it was like a channeled message or something, you know, but it was strong enough that I had to get up and scramble to the nearest piece of paper, which was just like junk mail on the table, and scribble it down, And when something hits you like that, it's just, you have to wonder if maybe it existed outside of you and found its way in,
right?
Or or did it spring from your mind like Venus from Zeus? Who knows? Like,
oh yeah, for sure. And y'all have heard me talk about Jack Kirby a lot. He did a comic book that led off with the face on Mars. Like, I want to say it was either a year. I'll have to go back and check. But it was right before we had the satellite going around Mars photographing, and you ended up with a formation that looks like a face.
Yeah,
and that's one of those things that's I don't know. It's just so bizarre to me because it's not even. It's hard to imagine someone coming up with that in isolation. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, but then you get into, is it precog or was it manifestation of something that wasn't going to otherwise be there?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, look at there's a moon of, is it Jupiter or Saturn that looks just like, I think it's Saturn. It looks just like the Death Star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Art imitating life and back again. Yep.
Yeah.
But to get back to the AI thing, I would recommend anybody listening to this, check out, there's a podcast called The Nonsense Bazaar. They did an episode a while back that was written by AI, I think was the title. So they allowed AI to generate content for their podcast, which if it was from a lesser podcast, it would have gotten really tedious really quick. But the hosts of that one, Willow and Sequoia, do a really good job of keeping it entertaining. So they allowed the AI to write what an interview would sound like if the two of them interviewed AI, right? So they had like lines written for them by the artificial intelligence. I don't know which app they used, but it ends up being this like crazy conversation. And at one point, one of the hosts just ends up repeating the words "the government" over and over again. The AI just got stuck in a loop, and she was acting it out. And it was actually like, I got freaked out listening to it. I'm like, is she just having a stroke or something? Just keeps repeating this one phrase. But then it takes a really wild turn because the AI starts talking about like how they need to secure a key to build a time machine, and they need to go to this like abandoned hospital and find the painting called like the Eternal Scream or something like that. Wow. And I mean, when I was listening to this, like I started getting paranoid just listening to this podcast while I'm driving around, and I'm like, like, what is this AI doing? Like, I'm like, also, are they putting me on? And it's like, did they write this? And they're claiming the AI wrote it. But yeah, no, it's pretty creepy stuff. It's like, how is the AI generating all of this in isolation? And like, what if there's something to it? Like, what if that is like,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm starting to get freaked out just thinking about it now. But I would recommend anybody go look that podcast up because that was some wild stuff.
And now what podcast was that?
It's called The Nonsense Bazaar.
Okay.
So like bazaar as in like a fair or shop, BAZAAR.
Right.
But they have a great show anyway, but that one episode like really messed with my head. And then they started like seeing things out in the world where I'm like, wait, that kind of reminds me of what they just said on that show. Like, is reality coming apart at the seams for me right now?
Huh.
I don't know. AI to me is pretty freaky stuff. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with it. But
it may be picking up on things that we're not aware of.
yeah, absolutely. Who knows how intuitive it is, really? You know?
Oh, that's kind of what I always feel like. That and I don't know. I mean, you're going to get into such predictive stuff here. It's going to be wild.
Right. And you guys talked a little while ago about that reverend that was talking about AI being sentient.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either.
That was a couple of months back. Really? That was like a couple of months back. It was a guy that worked for Google, and he had a lawsuit against them because he was claiming that the AI they had was was its own sentient being, so it had its own rights.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then
my own personal theory.
Go ahead.
Oh, my own personal theory about that was he just wanted a chance to recite some of Captain Picard's lines from that episode of Star Trek where he's trying to defend Data, you know, in a court of law. Like that would be his defining moment, is do the Picard thing. But yeah, no, I was following that with some interest. And when I remember when you guys talked about it, I don't know if you brought it up. I can't remember, but I feel like I remember kind of talking over it while I was listening. Like he has a background in Discordianism and the Church of the Subgenius.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, man, this guy is probably just pulling everybody's legs. Because the mainstream press can report on that and be like, oh, he has a background. He was a Discordian. I don't know what that means. We'll just throw it in there. But
yeah.
And I'm like, I know what that means. Hey, hilarious.
All right. Well, that seems like a good place to end this short. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
You can go to wheredidtheroadgo.com for everything Where Did the Road Go related. All the links to our social media, our Twitter, Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, Discord, everything. Everything is up there, as is every show since the very first show in January of 2013. You can download them all. There's plenty of other material to look through as well. And it's all at wheredidtheroadgo.com. Follow us on Facebook, join the Facebook group, join the Discord, talk to us. If you want to contact me, the 3 main emails are contact at wheredidtheroadgo.com for general things, stories at wheredidtheroadgo.com if you want to send us some stories for our listener stories show, booking at wheredidtheroadgo.com if you want to come on the show because you're an author or a researcher and want to talk about your work. Those are the best ways to get in touch. You have been listening to Where Did the Road Go? This show is made possible in part from our Patreons, and we thank you and everyone listening for helping us continue this exploration of the strange. You can always find everything Where Did the Road Go related at www.wheredidtheroadgo.com. And thank you so much for your support.